You have to love yourself enough to let go. Now, obviously, when you hear that, you probably jump towards a relationship or you're thinking about a friendship, but sometimes that can even apply to our own selves. Sometimes that can apply to our old habits or our old ways of living life. Sometimes I think we get too comfortable being where we are and not realizing that we're really bringing our own suffering to our own lives, and we have the ability to change that. In the past, I used to catch myself settling in places out of obligation, like whether in friendships, whether it was just in my old ways, or whether it was just what I was comfortable with. Certain friends just always being there. It made me feel obligated to keep them around, where it's like I felt this like I owed them loyalty. And this can relate even to my video about outgrowing people, but sometimes it gets to a point where it's like I wouldn't be showing love to myself to allow myself to remain in the situation. In some instances, you're going to be disrespecting yourself. In some instances, you're going to be causing your own chaos, causing your own suffering. And you sometimes have to make that hard decision. Showing love to yourself, showing yourself self-love sometimes comes with you having to make tough decisions that come with tough results. Sometimes that means having to let go of people. Sometimes that means having to sacrifice certain things that you've always had in your life. Sometimes that means having to change something in the way you've always done something. I think a lot of us settle in certain situations out of comfort, out of familiarity, out of that obligation to stay loyal to it. And it really brings us no value to our life. In fact, a lot of the times, if it's meant to be let go of, it's usually bringing more chaos into our life than it is peace. Because as you just kind of grow up in life, things change, people change, situations change, and they aren't always going to remain the same or be as they were. And so in that change, sometimes things no longer are for you, or sometimes things become even better for you. When you recognize things that are just no longer for you, you have to have enough self-love to be willing to let it go. I think a lot of us, we get attached to